Hiccup is he's a bit of a square peg. He's well, he's like anybody. He's kind of equal parts both of his parents and neither of them, and so he's this kind of I don't want to say ahead of his time, but he maybe doesn't make a ton of sense in the world that he was born into, but has found a way to make it his own. Well, we've just sort of we've seen some of the promise of the first movie realized a bit. He's the obligations of adulthood are starting to mount and pile up, and he knows that as the son of the chief, it doesn't take a math whiz to know that he's next in line, and he struggles with that. Burke is amazing now. It's there's if you live on Burke and don't have a dragon, you're now in the minority. You know, it's there's dragon racing, and it's just this beautiful testament to what Hiccup was a part of in the first one, which is this, yeah, bridging the gap and bringing the two of them together. And so dragons and humans on the Burke in this movie live side by side on top of each other. You couldn't have one without the other. Toothless is Hiccup's best friend. He this is, not to take away from any of the humans in his life, but they have a symbiotic relationship. They need each other, and they're both despite the fact that they're two completely different species, they have more in common with each other than they probably do with their own respective species. And they're both kind of odd birds, outcasts, and they both had some work done. And so, yeah, there's no Hiccup without Toothless. Hiccup always tinkers and builds stuff, and so he's kind of souped up his peg leg a bit, and he's constructed what is my favorite thing in the new movie, which is this really wicked flying suit. So he can actually not just ride Toothless, but can fly side by side with him, which is pretty special. Hiccup and Astrid are full on a couple now, and she's far more alpha male than he is, and she doesn't let him forget that. So she constantly makes fun of him. And one of my favorite moments in the new movie is when Astrid or America does she does her impression of Hiccup or me, and it's it's not flattering, but it's definitely hilarious. No, it's incredible. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I had no idea when I showed up for the very first recording session, this adventure that it would take me on. To make a movie, to be a part. I shouldn't say make, because I played one role out of thousands of people involved. But I'll just say to be involved in a movie that means as much as How to Train Your Dragon does to people. I could retire tomorrow because I was part of it, and 'cause I just know the things that I liked when I was a child, books, movies, whatever, and you don't like anything more than when you like it as a child. And so I know that I had at least something to do with a movie that has impacted kids the way that this one did. So it's just like, yeah, I'm a very lucky man. There's someone else out there, not on Burke, who has the ability to control dragons. And we find out that, of course, that's my mother. And I haven't seen her since I was a baby, so I've never seen her. And then for my dad, for Stoic, he's reconnecting with his long lost love that he thought was gone forever. Well, the Alpha is what it sounds like. It is the king of all dragons, and it's massive. And what's pretty cool is that it it breathes the opposite of what most people think dragons breathe, which is doesn't breathe fire, it breathes ice. It breathes massive shards of ice, and it has the ability to make all other dragons subservient to it and beneath it. And so you control the Alpha, you control all the dragons. Drago Bloodfist is this awful. He's he's a Viking chief, and he is the dragon trapper, the dragon master in his mind, and he leads his awful army, and they want to conquer and control the dragons, and only as a means of being able to conquer and control other people. So this is not a man who wishes a lot of good stuff for people or for dragons, and he's just kind of a megalomaniac. Eret, son of Eret, is this. He's a young guy around the same age as sort of Hiccup and the rest of the kids, but from the other side, he works for Drago, Bloodfist, and so he's trying his best to be whatever Drago wants him to be. Of course, he has a bit of a crisis of conscience when he meets up with us and sees a world and a way of life that he just didn't know could exist. Oh, it was like we never stopped. Dean and I at this point have such a. I'd like to think we have a rapport and a shorthand. If we don't, that'd be pretty terrible. So we speak the same language. We grew up not too far apart from each other, and so we just have the same kind of references to draw upon. But yeah, no, he's one of my favorite people to work for. I love. Well, I just love him as a guy, but also I love his heart and his mind and his vision for things and the way he likes to communicate them. So it's like riding a bike.